Hey everyone, and welcome back. I'm super excited for today's video because today we're going to be talking about authors that I have read a single book from and enjoyed that book so much that now I can't wait to read more by that author. So we're going to cover 10 authors today, and then I will probably have an honorable mention at the end as well. Now these authors actually cross a variety of genres, so we're going to have some suspense thriller recs, we're going to have some historical fiction, some fantasy, and even some contemporary in the mix. So as we go through these authors today, what I'm going to do is tell you the book that I read, and then also one or two books that I'm excited to read. Our first author today is Rick Acker. Now, the book that I read that Rick co-wrote was one with Colleen Coble, and that was this one, I Think I Was Murdered. I really enjoyed the mystery in this. It was actually pretty unique, and so that set me down the path of wanting to read other books by Rick Acker and see what else was in that catalog. So another series that Rick wrote with Colleen Coble is the Tupelo Grove series, and this is one that I'm really excited to get into. So the first one is What We Hide, and this is one that I'm hoping to get to as soon as possible. It looks really good, and this book seems to cross history with mystery, and that is a very fun combination, so I'm excited for this one. And another book by Rick Acker that I'm hoping to read is When the Devil Whistles. Now this one is just by Rick, and it looks really cool. And this one looks a lot like mysteries set in a corporate climate. So that sounds really interesting. It says on the back, Allie Whitman and Connor Norman loved making the devils of the corporate world pay. Now it's their turn, and the price could be their lives. So this looks very fascinating, and so this is one by him that I would like to read. Next up, we have Patricia Bradley, and the first book that I read by her is Justice Delayed. Now, this is the first book in a cold case mystery series. It's the Memphis Cold Case novels. There are actually 4 books in this series, so as you might imagine, one of the books that I'm excited to read next is the next book in that series, and that is Justice Buried. And this looks super unique. On the back it says, in an effort to get her security consulting business off the ground, Kelsey Allen has been spending a lot of time up in the air, rappelling down buildings and climbing through windows to show business owners their vulnerabilities to thieves. So, security consultant business, that sounds really fascinating. When she is hired to pose as a conservator in the Pink Palace Museum in order to test their security weaknesses after some artifacts go missing, she's ecstatic. But when her investigative focus turns from theft to murder, Kelsey knows she's out of her league, and possibly in the crosshairs. When Blast from the Past detective Brad Hollister is called in to investigate, Kelsey may find he's the biggest security threat yet to her heart. So this one definitely sounds like a fun time. And another one that I'm hoping to read, and it's also a series, it's Pearl River novels. The first one of those is Counterattack. So she has a lot of really fun series, and I can't wait to see more by her. The next author we have is Darlene L. Turner and her book Echoes of Darkness. Now this was kind of a darker book. There was a lot going on in it, and it was pretty intense. But I really enjoyed her writing. It was a little different. It felt a little more unique from some authors that I've read, and I really did enjoy the mystery. I liked her main character and the side characters who were in this. So I've been wanting to read another one by her. Now, I don't own another book by Darlene, but I definitely want to continue with her stories, and I recently found out that Echoes of Darkness is actually the first in the Arctic Protectors series. The second book is coming out later in 2026, and it is called Coordinates of Death. So Coordinates of Death is going to be the second book in that series. It releases in October, I believe. So that's one that I would like to read next by this author. So far we have covered 3 kind of suspense thriller authors, and now we're going to dive into a few fantasy ones. The first one I want to talk about is Morgan L. Busse. I don't know 100% if that is how her name is said, but I have read one book by her and I'm looking forward to more. The first one that I read is Winter's Maiden, and this is the first in a series as well. This is the Nordic Wars series, book 1. And it was really good. As you can see, this has a very wintry vibe to it, and it was fun getting to know our main characters in this. Both the male and female main characters in this have a lot going on, and there is a lot of more like warfare and things that happen in this book, and it is really good. I am wanting to read, as you might imagine, for another book by Morgan, Winter's Chill, which is the second book in the series. And I haven't yet started this, but I would love to read this year, and I believe book 3 is coming out this year as well. Another series that I've heard so many good things about by Morgan is the Ravenwood Saga, and the first one of that series is called Mark of the Raven. And this looks super intriguing. The powers of the characters in this and the things that they have to confront look so much fun. Literally, the main character in this book can dream walk, and I want to see what that looks like. It sounds very unique and fun, and I want to see what that power is that this character has and that her family has. Our next author is Victoria McCombs, and her book that I read was Mortal Queens, and this is the first book in the Fae Dynasty series. This was a very unique premise where this girl is chosen to go to the Fae world, and things there aren't quite what she was imagining them to be. And she is chosen as one of the Fae queens, and all the Fae just adore her, but there's something very dark and sinister actually going on in this world that she finds out and then has to figure out what to do about it. So of course, since this is book 1, I want to read book 2, and that is Lethal Kings. This one's a little chunkier than the first book in the series, so I am curious to see what all happens in this with the main character. I'm not going to say much about it because it's the next book in the series and I don't want to spoil anything, but book 1 leaves off in a very interesting place, and I have been really wanting to find out what happens next. Our next and last fantasy author for this video is Rachelle Nelson and her book Ember Gold. So I read Ember Gold. I had this one in a wrap-up video, and it was one of my top reads of the first quarter. I really enjoyed this story. It was a very unique take on dragons and what they mean and what they are, and so this was a super, super fun story. I really loved the main character in this, and she experiences a lot of betrayal in this book and has to navigate that and also figure out the truth of what is going on around her. The next book that I would like to try by Rachelle Nelson is Sky of Seven Colors, and this also looks like a lot of fun. On the front cover, it says, "In the Gray Kingdom, they'll trade anything for color." So this has a lot of color things interwoven into it. And it looks like our main female character actually makes a wish at the beginning of this book, and it traps her into this gray other earth that is void of any color. So I wonder what in the world is going to happen in this, but it looks very unique, and I want to see what this gray earth is like. And now let's move on to some historical fiction. We have several books here by different authors that I really enjoyed their first book and can't wait to get into other books. The first one of those is Joanna Davidson Politano, and this is Lady Jane Disappears. I had no idea really what to expect with this book or with this author, but I loved this book and I loved her writing. She had so many ways of saying things and so many quotes in this book that I would just stop and think about it for a minute, because she would say something that would just hit in a certain way that you're going, oh wow, that is just so good. And I really, really enjoyed this book. It was such a good time. There was a little bit of mystery in it, and the historical element and our main female character was very fun. I liked her a lot. And she kind of has this little bit of hidden identity going on, and there are quite a few secrets hovering around her, not only for herself but also her family. There are several books by Joanna that I would love to dive into, but a couple of top ones for me is A Rumored Fortune, and this is actually on my list for books that I really, really want to read at some point in 2026. It also looks like it combines historical elements in with a mystery, which I love because I love history, love mysteries. Combining the two is the best thing. And this one looks like it's got a bit of a treasure hunt going on, because it says Tressa Harlow's father kept his vast fortune hidden somewhere on his estate in the south of England and died suddenly without telling anyone where he had concealed it. So treasure hunt vibes for sure. Mystery around where that fortune actually is. And another one is her newest release, which is The Life She Forgot. This looks really, really good. This is the start of a series, and normally she writes standalone books, but we have a series to look forward to with this one. And this one's also a dual timeline, so it takes place in the same location over two different time periods. The first is 1913 and the second is 1947. So I'm excited to read this. I'm sure it's going to be spectacular, just like the first book that I read by her. Our next author is Elizabeth Camden, and the first book that I read by her was Against the Tide. This was a 5-star read for me in 2025. I loved this book. I still think about this book. I want to reread this book at some point, and it made me really want to read other books by this author as well. And the first one that I think I'm probably going to tackle is her Women of Midtown series, and the first one of that is While the City Sleeps. And the premise of this sounds really fun because it says Katherine Schneider's life as a dentist in 1913 New York is upended when a patient reveals details of a deadly plot while under the influence of laughing gas. I really want to read this so bad. I was actually going to read it last year and just never got the opportunity. And so I really want to read it this year and get into this series because I have a feeling that I'm going to love it. Our next author is one that is fairly popular, but I hadn't read any books by her until very, very recently, and that is Laura Frantz. And the first book I read by her was Belle of Chatham, which is actually her newest release. This takes place during the Revolutionary War time period and was a very well done historical fiction with a deep glimpse of what life was like during that time. I seriously want to read more by her. She does such a great job with the presentation of the history. And beyond that, her characters are very well fleshed out, deep and complex, and you certainly find yourself rooting for the ones you love and rooting against the ones you hate. Laura Frantz also has a lot of books out, so it was very hard for me to figure out which ones I would want to read next, but I think one of the first ones I'd like to try is A Heart Adrift. It's funny because I actually purchased this one before Belle of Chatham, but ended up reading Belle of Chatham first and loved it so much that now I'm looking back at this one going, I definitely need to pick this up. Now this one says it is 1755 and the threat of war with France looms over colonial York, Virginia. And our main female character, Esme, is a chocolatier, which sounds like so much fun because honestly, who doesn't love chocolate? So chocolatier back in the mid-1700s with an impending war looming with France. I'm very much looking forward to trying this book out. All right, we're down to our final authors, and these are contemporary ones. One of those is Becky Wade. I had never read anything by Becky Wade. I have heard her name all over the place, but hadn't given one of her books a try. And the first one that I actually tried was Undeniably Yours. This was a very sweet romance, but it had a lot more mystery and things happening in it than I ever thought there was going to be. Our two main characters, Meg and Beau, were really fun, and it was great getting to see their story develop throughout the course of this book and the things that happened with them, with their broader families, and with all the other people around them. Now this one is part of a series, so one of the next books that I would like to read by her is the second one in that series, and that is Meant to Be Mine. The male main character in this is actually one of the characters that is in Undeniably Yours, and he is related to the male lead in Undeniably Yours. So Beau Porter was in the first one, and this one's about Ty Porter. Another series of hers that I would like to give a try is the Sons of Scandal series, and the first one of those is Memory Lane. I have heard a lot of great things about this book as well, so it is for sure on my list. I enjoyed the first book that I read by her so much that I want to explore her backlist for sure, and I've heard a lot of great things about a lot of her books. Another author that I read for the first time is one that I don't actually physically own the book that I read because it was an audiobook that I listened to. But that author is Lisa Wingate, and she is another one that I've heard so many great things about. Her books feel I don't know, a little more literary in feel to me. And there's such a depth to her stories, or at least the one that I have read thus far, but others that I have seen just look like they are so intriguing, and they have this true complexity and this feeling of really teaching things about life, if that makes any sense. Now, the first book I read by Lisa Wingate, it actually is the third book in a series. I don't know how I managed that, but I did. It's the third book in the Carolina Heirlooms series, and that book was called The Sea Keeper's Daughters. Now, I think that you can read these as standalone, but I'll be interested to see kind of if they are interconnected or not. I really don't even know. But I was able to read the third one, and I think each one follows a different character and a different story. So as would probably make sense, I would like to go back and read the first two books in that series. The first one is called The Prayer Box, and it looks really good. Also looks like so much depth to this story. It says on the back, when Iola Ann Poole, an old-timer on Hatteras Island, passes away in her bed at 91, the struggling young mother in her rental cottage, Tandy Jo Reese, finds herself charged with the task of cleaning out Iola's rambling Victorian house. So as she's going through the house, it says that she finds 81 carefully decorated prayer boxes, one for each year spanning from Iola's youth to her last days. And so she gets to read the story that takes place in these prayer boxes. It truly sounds so amazing. So I'm excited to read the first book in this series and the second book, and to fill in everything since I skipped directly to the end somehow. And another book by her that I would like to read is Before We Were Yours, and this is a standalone that looks so good. It's actually a very popular book, so if you haven't read it, you may have seen it somewhere. And this one's cool too because it's got a little bit of a dual timeline situation going on. So Memphis in 1939 and Aiken, South Carolina in the present day. And it goes into the stories that overlap between those two time periods. And this especially looks at events surrounding the Tennessee Children's Home Society orphanage and what was happening during that time period. I feel like this is going to have heartbreak in it. I have a feeling this book is going to make me cry. I don't know why, but I have a feeling it's going to. So those are the authors that I have read one book by, and that has prompted me to want to read more because I cannot stop with just that one book. But as an honorable mention, I have another author. The reason this author is an honorable mention is because I may have already started reading a second book by her. So I felt like she didn't quite fit. But when I was originally planning for this video, I hadn't started that book, and she was definitely on the list. So I'm just moving her to an honorable mention. And that author is Nicole Deese. I first read her first book in her Fog Harbor romance series earlier this year, fell in love with it. It had such a huge impact on me, and of course I have been dying to read other books by her. So as you may imagine, the book I've started reading by her is the second book in that series, and that is The Roads We Follow. I'm currently reading this. I'm a little over halfway through and absolutely loving it again. Her writing is so good. Her characters are so good. And there are just things in her books that hit. Of course, after the second book, I would like to read the third book in the series, but I would also like to read other series by her. And those that I'm looking forward to are a duology that starts with All That Really Matters. I've heard great things about this. And a trilogy that starts with All for Anna. I have a feeling that I'm going to end up reading Nicole Deese's entire backlist and looking for anything new that she puts out because she's just that great of an author. And now that's it. Those are the authors that I've read one book and can't wait to read more. I'm guessing this might be the start of a series on this channel. I could definitely see myself doing more videos like this in the future. Are there any authors that you've read their first book and now you're excited to read more? Let me know who they are in the comments below. I'm always looking for more new authors to read. Thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate you all so very much. And as always, remember to keep following your dreams and believing in the magic of this thing called life. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.